All right, folks, welcome in to Pickaxe and Roll, brought to you by our good friends over at BetOnline and number 38. I am your host, Ryan Blackburn at NVA Blackburn on Twitter, part of the Mile High Sports Podcast Network, and I'm excited to talk about a couple of different things here on this episode. But as the title says, we'll get into Jalen Pickett and Hunter Tyson, who are not expected to play a whole bunch for the Nuggets this season, although they are still a piece of what the plan was for Denver, laid out by Calvin Booth, and sort of trying to follow through with that with Michael Malone and the Denver Nuggets coaching staff. The plan did not work last year. Is it a possibility that it works differently going forward? We'll talk about it all. We will get into a variety of different topics, including in this first segment, the jersey and in-season court leaks for the Denver Nuggets, and I'll show some of those on the screen as well. Should be a good time. Thank you so much for tuning in. This podcast, as you know, it's brought to you by our good friends over at BetOnline, the number one source for everything football on the most trusted betting platform. BetOnline has every stat, every matchup, and even live odds and spreads to bet on during the games. Think you know your stuff? Then get in on their $200,000 mega contest and pick 5 games against the spread every single week for your chance at weekly prizes and a share of a $200,000 prize pool. When the game's over, head on over to their online casino, get in on the action there, or unwind with some slots games. Head on over to their website today. Bet Online, the game starts here. All right, I am very excited to get into this one. But before we talk about Jalen Pickett and Hunter Tyson, I wanted to kick things off with some jersey leaks and some court leaks for the Denver Nuggets for this upcoming season. I've plugged them into StreamYard here, and we are going to take a look at them right quick. Boom, the leaked jerseys. I don't remember what source this actually came. I probably should have listed that before, but these are pretty universally considered the jersey leaks for the Denver Nuggets City Edition jersey this year. Just as a point of comparison, this was in 2023 on the left, the black 5280 jersey and the white 5280 jersey is what they are going with for the upcoming season, 2024-25. So I don't know what it's ultimately going to look like. The Nuggets often, they have their players come out in jerseys in a full media day ensemble on those days, and then maybe they'll have some of the guys showing off that, but I kind of doubt it. I think that they will wait to debut these until later in the year, probably kind of a December timeline, maybe even for the in-season tournament when it kicks off in November. But we're probably not going to see much of these for a little bit. But yeah, I think the comparison between the black 5280 jersey and the white 5280 jersey, I was never really a fan of the black one, and I don't think I'm going to be much of a fan of the white one either. The thing that I look at with this, and the thing I get not frustrated by, but like bothered by, is the actual numbers, and having that replacing Denver or Nuggets or Mile High City or something like that. It really does feel like the Nuggets are just leaning into the bit a little bit too much with the altitude thing, where you hear this sentiment from other people around the league as well. They're like, we get it. We know that you play at altitude. Fantastic. And I understand that. I think that Denver should be trying to lean into other parts of their franchise's history, like the Pickaxe, for example, like mountains, like Gold Rush. Like there's a lot of different things that they could be doing with regard to golden nuggets. But they have decided to instead lean into the altitude, I think a little bit too much. Like the statement jerseys have been titled Mile High City for a long time as well. And I don't know, man. It could be a lot better. I do like the topography kind of look on the other side of things. If we go back to the other side here, you'll see, yes, the jersey or the front doesn't have a number on it. I'm guessing that it will feature If this is Murray's jersey, will feature the same colored 27. It looks like a navy blue. I don't think it's a black. I think it's a navy blue. Um, and that will probably feature prominently in the bottom middle of the front of the jersey to match the Nike logo on the top left corner. But then you see the topography on the sides and then in the middle of the 5280. Like, I think that looks pretty good. It's a creative jersey, but it's just so plain for the white on all around the other bits of it. Like, why not go with a full topography look, or at least like add in a little bit more color? Like, there are plenty of ways that they could have done this thing that added in a little bit more creativity, a little bit more flash, a little bit more sizzle, and they just kind of decided to go with a white jersey, which, look, they've got a white, I think it's the association jersey that they have, and then the blue is the icon jersey. I could be flipping those. It's the home and away. And then they'll have a normal Mile High City jersey, which I believe is the kind of royal blue, statement blue look. And then they'll have this white jersey. And it could be better. Like, maybe there will be a fifth jersey that involves the playoff look, where I know that they used to come out with those for Nike specifically, where they'd come out with the earned jersey back in the day. So maybe there's a fifth jersey coming down the pipeline. But if this is one of the four that the Nuggets are going with, I think they'll be a little bit disappointed. Like, honestly, I think that Denver should be going with the blue jersey, like the statement Mile High City jerseys, and make that their home look, or make that their away look, and then make a white version of that for their home look. And that would be the way that they go with it. Yeah, it's going to be fascinating to see. Just reading Vlada's message on the side here. Yeah, it's just so minimalist, man. Like, that's been the main complaint with some of the other jerseys, like the Celtics statement or the Celtics City jersey. It just says Celtics on it. It's a very blah look, like they're making it in Canva. I make all of my thumbnails in Canva. If I can make the jersey in Canva, then that's a problem. That's definitely an issue. So hopefully they bring some more revitalization here, but I don't know. Like, Nike has done not as much as I would hope for the jerseys for this upcoming season, for last season, for the season before that. Like, the way that they continue cycling out jerseys every single season, it's fine, but it better be good. It better be worth it. And you better be trying to create something that's much better. And I just don't think that Denver, this one didn't really hit the mark. Like, between these last two for the 5280 jerseys, why are the numbers? Like, everybody was wondering why Denver had numbers on the front of the jerseys. And so they doubled down and they actually made it worse. I don't know if it's worse. Like, the fact that the 50 and the 5280 are about the same for 2023, that's probably worse than what it's going to look like with the 5280 on the right in 2024, where you can see what Murray's number will look like on the back. It will look distinctly different. But, like, come on, man. I don't know. It could be better. But either way, also got some court leaks for the Nuggets. This is from NBA 2K25. This is a screenshot of the Denver Nuggets in-season tournament court. It is hard to see on the screen, but I'm just going to point it out to you. In the middle of the red court, there is a light kind of wood look and then a darker wood look that has a circle in the shape of a basketball. And then in the middle of that, there's large words that say Mile High City on there. And then at center court, you have the Nuggets blue Pickaxe logo, which looks really good. And the championship NBA Cup logo behind it also looks very good. I like this better than I do the City Edition jersey. I think that this is a much more reasonable court design for the NBA Cup than what was the previous design, which was this. Obviously, like, I could have taken any number of pictures that weren't the straight up and down for this one, but I don't know. You had the 5280 on this one from 2023. The dark blue looked very odd in like when you're looking at it in person and when you're looking at it on TV. So I got to imagine that there's some better ways for Denver to do it, and they did. I think that they hit a nice mark here with this. It's going to look a lot cleaner. It does kind of look like a summer league design. There's something to that. I think I would have preferred they go with a slightly different color to the two different tones of wood in the middle, and then like having Mile High City and Elevation 5280 on it. It just does, like, for whatever reason, everybody's just leaning into the altitude extensively much. And I know that that is Denver's signature trait, but there are other signature traits too, like golden, nuggets, mining, pickaxe, and they've got the pickaxe logo in the middle, so that's good. But I do like the red. That I do think is nice. I think the red and the combination with the statement blue is pretty good. So that looks a little bit more subtly solid. And hopefully the Nuggets play well in these. Hopefully they have a better showing in the NBA Cup than they did this last time around. But let me know your thoughts in the comments. What do you think of the jerseys? What do you think of the city, or not the city, the NBA Cup court that they've got? I'm curious to see what the fan base thinks. I know I'm a little bit late kind of reacting to this stuff, but I wanted to do it in this podcast. So we'll get into Jalen Pickett and Hunter Tyson on the other side. We will be right back on Pickaxe and Roll. But first, I want to tell you about Number 38, who are the proud partners with Mile High Sports for what has been a little bit here. They are doing some great watch parties for all of the football games, whether it's the CU Buffs, could do stuff for CSU. There's going to be some Denver Broncos stuff going forward. We've had Colorado Rockies stuff, although that has not been as fun, clearly, of late. But there's been a lot of nice things over at Number 38, and they do a great job of taking care of all of their guests. We'll have a pregame podcast, oftentimes a postgame podcast from there, live on the scene, and you can meet all of the MHS crew when we're doing the watch parties there. All you got to do is come up and say hi. We will absolutely be very, very happy to hear from you. There will be watch parties for the Nuggets in the future, so it's going to be fun to watch. Head on down to Rhino, get in on the action at Number 38. Got some good drink deals, got some good food deals. Let them know that you came from Mile High Sports. We'll be right back on Pickaxe and Roll. All right, we're back. Second segment, Pickaxe and Roll. Thank you so much for tuning into the show. Appreciate all the love and support on the podcast. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button if you are tuning in. I know this is a weird time for me. I am it's not set in stone, but I believe that my normal time for the season is going to be either 10 a.m. or 11 a.m. I'm pivoting. I know that I've pivoted a lot on this podcast, but that is going to be the time when I go live on a consistent basis, 10 a.m. or 11 a.m., kind of in that range. And we'll see, we'll kind of play around with that, see what happens. But I wanted to be able to come up with a regular, consistent time for the live audience so that if everybody's interested in hopping in and sharing their thoughts, there will have been a game the night before. There's some stuff that I'm going to do the prior night or that night. And then in the morning, you'll get my reactions fresh on Pickaxe and Roll. So should be very good. I'm excited to see it. All right, let's do it. Let's talk about Jalen Pickett and Hunter Tyson. I know that a lot of people are down on this particular duo, especially after watching Summer League. Things have not been good. My central question for this 20Q podcast: how much time can the Nuggets afford to give Hunter Tyson and Jalen Pickett? Because there is so much pressure on the Nuggets figuring out exactly what they have to do, exactly how they're going to win, bringing in the right pieces around Nikola Jokic, Jamal Murray, Michael Porter, Aaron Gordon, doing everything that they can to win a championship. And this last year, Jalen Pickett played 122 minutes in 27 games, and Hunter Tyson played 48 minutes in 18 games. And those guys, they just didn't factor in. They were not a factor for what the Nuggets wanted to do. They looked tentative at times. They looked like rookies at times. I think the allure of bringing those guys in specifically for Calvin Booth was that they were older rookies, that they would be guys that not only were cheap contracts for the salary cap situation that Denver knew they were facing, but you'd have multiple years of team control. And unfortunately, that means that those guys, they have to translate. This is a requirement. If you're going to give multiple years of a commitment to a player like this, those guys have to respond, and they have to play better, and they have to have an opportunity to play better. So the leading question I had for the title of this podcast, will Jalen Pickett and Hunter Tyson get a chance in 2024-25? I think that is a completely fair question. And one of the reasons why, if I go to the let me see if I can find it here. If I go to the roster and the salary cap sheet, you can see at the bottom of the screen, Jalen Pickett, Hunter Tyson, they don't make a lot of money. It's not a thing. Like, they don't make a lot. The thing is, though, is that they are taking up roster spots. And for guys that you would want to play, that you would want to be like a regular rotation member, or at least one of them finding their way into the regular rotation to be a contributor for what you're hoping for this upcoming season. It didn't do it last year. They are guaranteed for this year. And I believe that they are guaranteed for the next season as well in year 3. So this is something where the Nuggets have made a contribution. They've made an effort to try to put those guys financially into a position where they could be developed. Calvin Booth decided to give those guys multi-year deals. That was the plan. But it means that it has to translate it. It means that Michael Malone but like he would be incentivized to try to play those guys because they're going to be around. They're going to be here. So you can't just play everybody. That is a very clear statement. But Jalen Pickett and Hunter Tyson did not play, and there was no question as to whether they were in the rotation or not. The answer was emphatically no. And I think you're probably going to get the same answer for this upcoming season. But let's talk about Jalen Pickett first, because that one is the more, I think, volatile situation. 27 games, 122 minutes. He played primarily garbage time. He did play in 6 of the 8 games. He played 5+ minutes. They happened in November when Jamal Murray suffered his hamstring injury. There was a brief time early last season where the Nuggets were kind of debating, okay, do we go Colin Gillespie? Do we go Jalen Pickett? I think Colin Gillespie got the first option and then didn't necessarily do that much with it. And so Jalen Pickett got the next little bit of run. The Nuggets had to figure out what they were going to do. Neither of those guys really shined, especially in their individual time. I want to go through Jalen Pickett's plus minus in the 8 games that he played over 5 minutes. I just want to tell people what happened. +7, -4, +9, +1, -1, +1, +3, 0. 2 minus games. 2 games where the Nuggets were a -4 and a -1 when he was on the floor. I know he wasn't great individually, and he's not really the kind of point guard I don't think that Michael Malone wants. Michael Malone wants a guy who can dominate the ball, who can, maybe not dominate, but like can get to the position where he needs to go, can set the table for everybody, and can get downhill when he needs to. In hindsight, looking at the numbers, it wasn't that bad. In the moment, it might have felt like he was over his head a little bit. And the Nuggets, I think, put a lot of pressure on him to be good immediately in that time. Unfortunately, he looked tentative as a rookie. You can look even more tentative as a rookie when every mistake means your neck. It means that guys are playing uncomfortable. It means that guys are playing scared. And I think that for a lot of the time, Jalen Pickett played pretty scared, pretty nervous, and was uncomfortable with the idea of making mistakes. And so it actually bogged down the offense in ways that were not good. And plays where he absolutely needed to be better and just wasn't. So I'm not here to absolve him of his crime. Like, it's not crimes. I'm not here to absolve him of his bad play. But I am here. I say, okay, he was a plus in 5 of those 8 games. He was a net neutral in 1 of them and was a minus in 2 of them. It could have been worse. He probably didn't get a fair shake. And given that it meant that you played Reggie Jackson all 82 playoff games and 12, or all 82 regular season and 12 playoff games, probably wasn't worth it. Now, Dayon here says, well, you watched him at the Summer League where he played more and showed that he is even worse than during the regular season. Absolutely. He was horrible in Summer League. Really, really bad. And I'm not sure how he bounces back from it. Like, there's a very clear indicator here that very clear indicator that things did not go well, that things were not awesome, and like the opportunity that he had was immediately upstaged by Trey Alexander, somebody who's on his heels. I'm not sure how he bounces back entirely from that. There's reasons to believe that he can, because it's one bad year, your rookie season, you're not meant to be good. Once you get your sea legs under you, and once you get the expectation under you, then it's very possible that he turns it around a little bit and we start to have a different impression of who Jalen Pickett is as a player. Grace asks, what do you make of Pickett skipping all the summer workouts with all the other young players? And what does that mean about his relationship with the coaching staff? Great question. I didn't know that he skipped all of the summer workouts. I think maybe there were some summer workouts that he wasn't around for. And there were probably some summer workouts that he was around for. Like I just saw a recent picture that was posted by the Nuggets of Jalen Pickett being in town. But before that, I hadn't seen a lot. So it is interesting. I don't know how many of those during the offseason he was actually around. And one of the things that I was going to say about Pickett, he's got to rekindle that relationship with the coaching staff and especially Michael Malone. If he's going to be a Denver Nugget, he's going to have to buy in, and the Nuggets are going to have to buy into him. It's going to have to be a mutual thing in order for those guys to make it work. But here's like kind of going around that. Jamal Murray and Christian Brown are starters at guard. Russell Westbrook and Julian Strawther are backups at guard. After that, Jalen Pickett could very well be your 5th guard. Like, they might decide, hey, we're going to play Peyton Watson at the 2 if Christian Brown or Julian Strawther happens. Or they could be deciding that they would like to go with another guard. Like, hypothetically, if one of Jamal Murray or Russell Westbrook goes down, wouldn't it make sense to try to get a second point guard out there? Probably would. Michael Malone may decide he doesn't want to do that, and he would like to get Christian Brown out there as a backup point guard instead, or maybe Julian Strawther as the backup point guard, and then you play more wings and forwards, and you play Jokic next to those guys, and you could probably make it work. Maybe that's the right call. But in order for Pickett to prove that he actually deserves some playing time with the Nuggets coaching staff, especially with Michael Malone, he's got to rekindle that relationship at some point. And that's on him as just as much as it is on the coaching staff. And honestly, it's probably more on Pickett at this point, and probably some on Calvin. Like, I think that there was definitely some pressure on that Calvin was probably applying. It's saying, hey, you probably should play Pickett instead of Colin Gillespie because we drafted Pickett and Colin Gillespie's on a 2-way contract. And that was clearly a source of contention for Michael Malone last year and for Calvin Booth and everybody involved. And I'm not saying that anybody was right or wrong in that situation, but that is just a normal NBA dynamic that happens that probably got a little bit too ugly because it was over Jalen Pickett. But if it's not going to be Pickett as the 5th guard, it's probably going to be Trey Alexander, who is a first-year guy, rookie guy, who looked very good in Summer League, looked a lot more dynamic and comfortable, and in situations where he could at least get a shot off and play some solid defense and do some different things. If it were up to me, I would still give Pickett an opportunity to try to show what he can do and not immediately turn the page. I would probably pivot if not everybody was receptive to that because like it just doesn't feel like things are going to happen and be a good thing. Uh, but you can at least try. And then if there is an injury to Jamal Murray or Russell Westbrook, and then if Pickett does outplay Trey Alexander in training camp and preseason, and let's say he's more definitive, he takes more risks, he battles his ass off, does a lot of things. Like Denver does have a lack of ball handling on the second unit if Russell Westbrook's not there. So maybe there's an opportunity that we're overlooking in situations where there is an injury. Or if you're just trying to keep guys healthy, think about this. Like, do you really want Jamal Murray playing 82? Do you really want Russell Westbrook playing 82? There's going to be times where those guys don't play, maybe times where neither guy plays. So I am thinking that the best thing for Denver is to try to keep as many guys engaged and positive as possible rather than turning the page. And that involves Jalen Pickett reciprocating that at least a little bit. So, look, we will see. We'll see what ultimately happens, but I don't know. Summer League can be a tough environment for different people. There was a possibility that Jalen Pickett hurt himself, that he sustained an injury at some point during Summer League and then was pulled. Some of that I think is a little bit tenuous, but you want to see Jalen Pickett try to do well. You want to see Denver try to do right by Jalen Pickett because he's committed for another year beyond this one. So I'm very curious to see what Denver does and to see how these guys respond to potential adversity. When we come back, we are going to talk about Hunter Tyson, and I think he has probably a tougher time cracking the consistent rotation, but if he does crack it, like there is still some potential for Hunter Tyson to work some things out. We will be right back on Pickaxe and Roll. All right, we're back. Final segment, Pickaxe and Roll. Thank you so much for tuning into the show. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. Would really, really appreciate it. Let's wrap this thing up with Hunter Tyson, who in 18 games last year played 48 total minutes. The most amount of minutes that he played in any one game, I think, was about 7. And it was at the end of a 38-point road loss to the Knicks at the end of a 5-game road trip. Not necessarily a great opportunity for him to shine, but was definitely an opportunity for him to play. Just didn't have a lot of those. And I don't think he deserved it. Like, he wasn't good enough. And one of the things that was interesting, I actually logged this before, he played 124 preseason minutes last year in 5 games. It was the most on the team. He did get an opportunity. The team saw a lot of him. And ultimately, they decided not to go that direction because he didn't play that well. He wasn't shooting the ball well. I don't think that there's still some things in his game, especially defensively, that you worry about from his ability to really step up on a consistent basis and guard guys in space and move your feet well and close out and things like that. All you got to do when you're around Jokic is hit open shots, drive closeouts, read the floor, and then guard. And Hunter Tyson wasn't really doing much of that last year. So, or at least he was trying to figure out how to do that. Didn't get a lot of opportunities to show it. The theory is good. If he is a floor spacing forward that tries hard defensively, there are some reasons to believe that he can play, but he's got to be better on the defensive end. And he also hasn't shot that well consistently from the 3-point perspective. And he just hasn't proven it over the course of a significant period of time. I would like to see where he is athletically heading into year 2. That's probably the thing that really stands out. And Grace says it here. Hunter looked overwhelmed by NBA athleticism on both ends of the floor starting for preseason. Agree. Like that's probably the biggest barrier of entry for him into the NBA. And it was the reason why he was a second round pick. And probably wasn't really on a lot of draft boards outside of Denver's. Like Calvin Booth decided he wanted to go with very specific needs, very specific guys that he thought could help from a shooting perspective. But I don't think that those guys in Pickett and Tyson have been proven to be athletic enough to really get a shot. And we're going to find out whether they can ultimately pivot into that. But the forward situation for Denver might be a little bit more complicated than the point guard situation for Denver. Michael Porter and Aaron Gordon are the starters. Peyton Watson is the primary backup. You probably go to Vlatko Čančar next, but if not him, then you have an opportunity to go to Zeke Naji. And if not him, maybe you're playing Julian Strawther at the 3, or maybe you're moving Christian Brown to the 3, and then you're sliding MPJ to the 4 or Aaron Gordon to the 4 if one of those guys is out. Like, there are a lot of ways that the Nuggets can go that do not involve Hunter Tyson. He is not expected to challenge for playtime, and I would not be surprised if his year looked a lot like it did this last year, where he spends a lot of time in the G League, doesn't really get a lot of regular season reps. Maybe there are times where he gets out there, but one of the things that really stood out, Michael Porter played 81 games, Aaron Gordon played 73. If that's going to be what your main guys are doing from the forward spots, there's just not going to be a lot of opportunities for everybody else. With Murray last year, he had 59 games played, so it should have been an opportunity for somebody like Pickett to kind of get on the floor in some of those other games. Ultimately, that wasn't the case. I think that Denver needs to walk back the minutes for Michael Porter and Aaron Gordon, but much of that is to the advantage of Peyton Watson and to Julian Strawther and to Christian Brown, not necessarily to Hunter Tyson. So he's not in line. He's not in line to get playing time. So how does he get to that? How does he get there? Well, he's got to thoroughly outperform the 2 forwards that the Nuggets are bringing, Gabe McLaughlin and Jalen Williams, to training camp. Like, those guys, they signed to Exhibit 10 deals in the offseason. They're expected to be waived and then go to the G League for Denver, but they will be in camp. They will be competing. And if those guys thoroughly outperform somebody like Hunter Tyson, would Denver pivot and decide that they want to sign one of those guys to a deal rather than Hunter? It's like, stranger things have happened. So I would be, if I'm Hunter, I would be focusing on training camp first, obviously. You try to play as hard as you possibly can on the defensive end. Do what you need to do, see the floor, and then when you get the opportunity, shoot the ball better, especially in preseason. He shot 38% from the field, 28% from 3 last preseason. It wasn't good. He needs to make a better impression. Make a better impression, be more consistent on that end and on the defensive end, and then maybe you could move up a rung or 2 on the depth chart. But you're going to need an injury. You're going to need some absences, and you're going to need to take advantage of that time. Perhaps Michael Malone will be a little bit more willing to go to him in situations where Porter or Gordon are out, when he is when he's not a first-year player, he's a second-year player. He's been in the system for a little bit. He should know what Denver's doing. If you don't know, that's a problem. But he's an older rookie. He was an older rookie last year. He should be perfectly good to handle that position this year. There should be no reason why he and Jalen Pickett do not know what they're doing. Like, they should absolutely be able to figure it out, and they could factor in. Do I expect it? No. Is it going to be something that the Nuggets regret? Probably not. I don't think that this is something that people are really going to be talking about going forward, but it is just one of those things where, I've mentioned this before, when Denver got into second apron territory, the luxury tax, when they're in this championship window, you trade away your first round picks. Every move has to hit, every single one, because Denver's just got such limited resources that if you miss on something, then you are going to be behind the 8 ball for other teams that have extra resources to catch up. And that's exactly what's happened. Other teams have caught up to Denver, and it's because the other detail things that the Nuggets were trying to do have not hit yet. Now, Peyton Watson could absolutely be a major factor Julian Strother, same thing. Christian Brown, could he make people forget about KCP? Absolutely. Those things haven't happened yet, but they could. I'm not expecting it to happen for Jalen Pickett or Hunter Tyson, but it doesn't mean that they shouldn't try to make it happen. It doesn't mean that those guys should be just put out to pasture while they are on the roster. Because if they're going to be on the roster, you want guys to always be able to contribute no matter what. I'm not expecting them to play 40 games. I'm not expecting them to play 10 plus minutes per game in the rotation every single night. But you'd want them to be able to fill in and be reasonable in those spots. Will it reflect negatively on Calvin Booth if both picks aren't retained? Maybe. Probably. Like, these are guys that he really committed to. These are guys that he really wanted to be good. He gave guaranteed multi-year deals. It was a big bet. Denver's plan to have rookies on multiple years. I personally think that took away from swings at minimum contract guys that have been around. Like, hypothetically, if Denver had an extra roster spot, could they have gone after Monte Morris, Tyus Jones, Kelly Oubre the year before, different players like that, like, hey, you've got an extra roster spot. You're willing to give people an opportunity. If you want to play for a champion, you want to play for a championship contender, sign here. Denver hasn't been able to do that because their roster spots have been committed. So I don't know. I don't know what the answer is. I think that Denver will be in an interesting position with these two. I want to see both of them. Like I said before, I want to see both of them have success with Denver. It would be cool. It would be a cool story for this to kind of turn around, for it to be the healthy surprise of preseason, of training camp, of, hey, maybe the first couple weeks of the season, maybe there's an injury that happens, or let's say Aaron Gordon strains a hammy or something, and they're like, you know what, Hunter, we're going to give you some consistent rotation time, and then he shoots 40% from three and helps Denver win some games. How sick would that be? That would be awesome. So I would love to see that for the Nuggets. I'd love to see that for those two specifically, because they've got a bad rap. They've had it really difficult, and it's on them. It's on them just as much as it is on the Nuggets to try to figure that out. If they bring their stuff, who knows? Maybe they could turn around. All right. Like I said, I don't expect it. Who knows? Maybe they'll surprise me. That is going to do it for this episode of Pickaxe and Roll, brought to you by our good friends over at BetOnline and number 38. Thank you so much for tuning into the show. Appreciate all the love and support on the podcast. As always, I will be back on probably Monday, maybe Tuesday. Still trying to figure out what that's going to look like, but I'm going to start amping up the number of shows going forward as freaking media days on Thursday. The Nuggets play a basketball game in 2 weeks. Wow. Thank you so much, everybody, for tuning into the show. Appreciate all the love and support. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button on the way out. I'll talk to you guys next week.